start.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our presentation today on the evolution of online labs. We're going to talk today about how HOL is bridging the distance learning gap for higher education and a little more about our relationship and partnership with OCC in the past. Today, to talk to you about that is our in-house specialist, Dr. Ben Shoup. And before I hand over the microphone to him, just give you a quick background information on who he is and what he does for hands-on labs. Dr. Ben Shoup received his undergraduate degree from the University of Vermont in chemistry and then completed his PhD in organic chemistry at UC Davis. Dr. Ben has developed our GOV chemistry experiment library and is involved in the continued development and improvement of the HOL Cloud, our proprietary platform. Dr. Ben is passionate about lab safety and making our chemistry experiments align with the 12 principles of green chemistry. His Newfoundland Lily acts as both his personal assistant and the office safety mascot. So without further ado, I present you Dr. Ben Shoup.
Good morning, everybody. So today I'm going to talk to you about how HOL has, what our evolution of where we started and where we got to, and then how our partnership with, as OCC, as Audrey was talking about, and then what we've currently launched as new products as well as the future of us. So just a quick background if you're unfamiliar with us. We were founded in 1994 by a couple of Linda and Peter, who were the original founders of our company. And so they were teaching at Colorado Mountain College up in the Summit County area of Colorado. And one week there was a giant storm that closed all the roads around the school, and so their students couldn't make it to class to, attend the lab that they were supposed to. And so the two instructors, when they talked together, they figured, hey, maybe we can kit something for these students so they can complete this outside of the normal classroom time, but still be able to get the same experience they had on campus. And then they moved on and started talking to their other colleagues that both were at Colorado Mountain College and other schools in the state of Colorado who had the same issues. And so that's where they kind of started developing out their experiment library and started working, besides just chemistry, then they started moving to physics and biology and other things like that. And that's really how the company grew, was starting from that idea. So since then, right, there's a lot that's happened since then. And I'll go through a lot of that moving forward, but the big thing is that since 1994, classes have, only grown in the online sector. It doesn't matter what discipline or course you're talking about, tons of online courses are being offered, whether it be from business, to English, to other classes like that. But one of the biggest challenges with the sciences and moving to an online environment is the physical laboratory. Most courses, if you're going to take a class such as a chemistry class, biology class, physics class, they require an actual lab component with them to get that full credit. And then if you're taking this at a smaller school like a community college and you want these credits to transfer if you go to a four-year university, those universities require those labs. Otherwise, you may have to retake that lab when you get to that campus. So as HOL, we have become that connecting tool between these two things, right? So we call this the distance learning gap. So we have the ability for your students to do online classes through your university, and then we provide the physical lab kits for their students to complete at home and any time when they need it. And so a lot of these kits, as you can see right here, these are lab-grade materials for your students to perform at any place. Typically this is at a home. They get the chemicals and every physical material that they get is lab-grade quality. The glass is, just what you would assume a student would get on an on-campus experience. The original purpose of all this, again, was to mirror the exact same tactile learning environment that a student gets when they're on campus. And so if you talk about our partnership with Ocean County College, right, we've been working with them since 2007. And since that time period, we worked directly with them because we originally had our standard kits and they were non-configurable. Since the adoption of HOL Cloud, which we'll talk about in a little bit, we have the ability to be completely customizable for you. So because of that, we have now partnered with OCC for 21 active kits that we provide for them. These include 7 of our 9 disciplines, anywhere from biology to microbiology, to anatomy, physiology, chemistry, environmental science, and physics, and forensics. And okay, so talking about delivering this kind of lab gear materials to your students, that may not be taking these on campus, like because these are distance lab learners, is, the challenges that go along with this, we'll talk about in a second, is the actual materials themselves, the content they get, and how to deliver their content to them so they can get this wherever they need to, depending on wherever they live and things like that over the internet. So the material challenge, right, one of the big things is cost. So we, as a company, understand that your students are the ones that have to buy these kits directly from us. And so we can't charge the same cost as, say, an on-campus school, right? So we have to look at how to make things equivalent to an on-campus school, but keep the cost low. So for example, if you think about a school, if they're going to do an experiment using a spectrometer, those spectrometers can cost thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands of dollars. But the reason why an on-campus school can use that is because they're going to use that over and over and over again every semester, so the cost goes down over time for them. Alternatively, if a student, when they buy a lab kit, these are one-time use for them for that course. So for us, a direct example of that, we have a colorimeter that has 2 wavelengths, but that's all the student needs for that experiment. Another big thing for us with costs is for chemicals. We partner with Rocky Mountain Reagents, who makes our chem bags for us, and they make it so that the chemicals that are in these chem bags are exactly what the student needs, maybe a small amount more, but they're not getting an excess, right? So whereas an on-campus school, they buy a large bottle, they allow the student to use as much as they need for the experiment, and buying in bulk is cheaper for them. But for us, we make them in small quantities, so they only need them. The next big thing is logistics, right? So once you get the cost down, now we have to kit them. Because all of our kits are able to be customizable, depending on whatever experiments you want to adopt, we have to go into the idea of how do we plan this? How are we going to be able to ship this to your students? Because we're not just all shipping to just one location for all of our clients. We have students that are in other countries, who are, on the West Coast, the East Coast, it doesn't matter. We have to be able to ship to all those places. We have to keep our inventory, and we have to distribute it all to them. So we've been able to figure this out with our partnership with our warehouse, and so we've gotten this to be a very streamlined process. And then the last thing that's pretty important for materials for students is the safety component, right? So for students, they're going to perform this pretty much without supervision as compared to an on-campus environment. And so we have to give them both the materials to protect themselves. So in this case, we provide full PPE depending on the type of experiments they're going to do. So we provide them with label goggles and gloves, and that are the number they need for the entire experiment, no more, no less type of deal. And as well as we provide them with one of the first lessons a student is required to do before they can even unlock their course is called lab safety. And so this course requires them to go through the entire thing and understand all the cautions that they're going to be undertaking in the actual lab environment they're going to be doing. And so also as HOL, we absorb all of the liability that goes along with this. So we want your students to be safe because they have to do this on their own. So another thing is that all of our content now is delivered through HOL Cloud, right? So our cloud is a proprietary platform. It was built on the 3 E's of learning, so it's divided up into 3 sections. So we have exploration, experimentation, and evaluation. And so when we go in to develop an experiment from scratch, or if we go revitalize an experiment, we always start with the experimentation because that's the most important section for them. So this is where the students are actually doing the hands-on physical, step-by-step procedures for any of these topics. And so we start there because then when we write our background in the exploration section, we want it to mirror only the information that a student needs to complete the experimentation section. Additionally, too, when we write these type of questions, it's going to reflect back on the learning objectives that we have that are going to be different in the exploration section and in the experimentation section. And then at the end, what we have is our evaluation section, which tests the outbound knowledge a student should have gained in both the exploration page and the experimentation section of these labs. Another part of our HOL Cloud platform is that all of our auto-graded questions that are multiple choice or true, false, or drag and drop is that it gives students immediate remediation based on whether or not they got the question right or wrong. And so this helps the students identify gaps in their knowledge that they may have when either starting the lesson. So all of our lessons start with something called Test Your Knowledge, which are these drag and drop questions. And those are like a pop quiz for the students. And that's for them to test their inbound knowledge before they even start. So if they don't know something, they're going to immediately see any of that type of information in the future that relates to what we call metacognitive learning theory. So they're immediately going to be drawn anything they don't know and then see it in the following sections in the exploration. And then in the multiple choice sections, right, they're going to get a remediation saying, hey, this is what you got wrong, or hey, nice job, you got it right, and this is what the correct answer is when it's wrong. And at the very end, for the evaluation section, if they get something wrong, it will tell them where they saw that information in the previous 2 sections. So for HOL, since we've been around since 1994, technology has changed drastically since then, right? So when we first were doing kitting and sending these out to students, we used to deliver all of our content on CDs, which was non-configurable, right? So we would upload all the set experiments, and if we found something was incorrect, once the student had the physical CD, we couldn't update it. Then we moved to PDFs. So we'd have them where they'd download a link. Again, these are static documents, but we had a little bit more control to update them. But since then, we've moved away from PDFs with the development of HOL Cloud. The huge advantage of HOL Cloud is that it works on any device that your student may use. So it works on a tablet, an iPhone, an Android, any type of device. It works on your desktop. It works on or any other type of computer your student may have. Now, this is great because, again, this platform scales to all these devices. So all the proprietary information that's made in HOL Cloud, it doesn't matter what device is on, the student will get the exact same learning experience. Another big thing, too, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but with the experimentation section is that all the data tables or data collection features that are part of that are all in the same window for the students. So they can go through the procedure, click on the bottom thing that will drag up, they can enter the data and close it, which means they don't have to go into an external window to enter their data. So again, as we've talked about, HOL Cloud makes it possible to learn from anywhere on any device. So this doesn't matter where it are, and this also works for you, right? So as the instructor, it doesn't matter what device you have, you're welcome to log into HOL Cloud and see your students' progress and stuff like that. So what the huge advantage is and the reason why we love HOL Cloud is that, again, we have these auto-graded questions for you. So it takes away your time and allows you to focus more on developing the content for your course than thinking about grading questions for your students. Again, our platform is completely integrates with any LMS system you have. It doesn't matter. And again, you can set it up so that you can attach the course hooks with your class. And so it'll be a single source login for your students. So if you use something like Canvas or Blackboard or anything like that, again, this will allow your students to log in once, and they'll be able to go directly into HOL from that window or open as a new window. Our platform, again, was also built on Bloom's taxonomy, which uses these action verbs that differ in the exploration section than the experimentation section, so they build on it. So you have things like describe or display or things like that, and then following up sections will be more things about investigate or describe and things like that. Again, as we talked about previously, all of our questions adhere to metacognitive learning theory. And then the huge advantage for your students is that when they're entering their data or doing any of the work, it auto-saves for them every 3 seconds. So if the student loses any type of connectivity because, say, they're doing it on an iPhone and they lose internet service because they're doing it, it doesn't matter. Your students' data will save, and as soon as they reconnect to the internet, the student will proceed to wherever they were before. And again, as we talked about, it doesn't matter. We can integrate into any LMS. We'll just work with you and your IT department if we have to. So the next section we'll talk about is what is new for HOL and what is new for Ocean County, right? So for us, one of the major things we launched was back in January, we launched GOB Chemistry. So if you're unfamiliar with this, GOB stands for General Organic and Biochemistry. This is typically a year-long or one semester stay-or-break course of these 3 topics all smushed into one class. Now, the goal of this type of class is that it's more of a overriding, less detailed type of chemistry class, but still to get them the same ideas that they would get in, say, the general chemistry class, an organic chemistry class, or a biochemistry class for them. And so what we did was we worked with a board of advisors. So these are external instructors that are either adjunct or full-time teachers at various universities that are teaching GOB currently in an online environment. So when we went through our whole library and we tailored the experimentation section and the evaluation section and all the questions and everything to the type of student that is a GOB student. And we came up with 32 total labs. So again, just like any other kit that you have with HOL, it's completely customizable. We have standard kits for semester 1 and semester 2, but it's completely up to you. Additionally, as part of this, we've tried to fill in the gaps that were missing from our library And we'll talk about those in a second, but we have 3 new lab offerings that are part of the GOB chemistry. And so they include, we had some gaps in the organic chemistry side, so we decided to add in the properties of alcohol. We expanded our identification of gases experiment to also include the ideal gas law, and it goes into a specific exercise on Charles' law. And then finally, the last thing to go over metabolism was we looked at metabolism of polysaccharides and anaerobic fermentation. So we're looking at where we're using yeast and we're feeding them sugar, just like you would do in such a brewing experiment, and monitor the alcohol at the very end of this. And so these were some new experiments we added to our library. Additionally, our most recent update is we went through and revitalized physics. So we hadn't touched physics in a little while, so we went back and looked through all of the lessons that we had in our library. So we began by looking at, again, at the procedures and rewrote all of the procedures. So some of the titles may change, but the quality is still there that you expect from HOL. So now at the end of this project, we have 32 experiments that are available for adoption. One of the major things, which I'll talk about in a second, that we did add to the physics library of experiments is simulations. And so what we found was that students were doing some of these physics experiments and they were getting frustrated with the results because the error was very, very high. And so we still wanted the students to have a tactile environment, but for them to then get repeatable, controllable results, we added in simulations. So we partnered with PhET, who I'll talk about in a second, and had them use some of their simulations in our content. And so these simulations are the exact same style. So you can think about it as the best example I can talk about is, projectile motion. So if you have a student having some kind of item such as a rocket and you're trying to have them shoot it up, there's a lot of external variables that could affect the path of that rocket, between wind and other things like that. Our simulation, allows it to be very repeatable, but because of the simulation, they can manipulate the data to whatever they want or in it. But again, they also have the same type of step-by-step procedures where they're screenshotting and in our procedures. So again, these are also configurable for you. And yep. So to just go over the little process of how we went through our revitalization. This works with any type of revitalization. This is the same we did for GOB, but this is for physics. So we start by looking out at lab manuals out there and class syllabus from a variety of schools, be ones that already adopt with us or external schools that don't adopt with HOL. And so we compiled a library of experiments that we wanted to try to hit, and then looked at our internal library. So then again, we started testing all the procedures and materials for the effectiveness. So a lot of the reason why we revitalized that some of the materials may not be working as well as we want, so we have to go find new materials out there in the market and then be able to source them at a reasonable price for your students. And then again, as I was talking about, we partnered with PhET. So these are with CU Boulder, right? PhET is a subsidiary of them where they create these simulations for physics and other disciplines. And so we worked with them directly to create and integrate into our platform. Then we went in and sourced new materials after we've gone through all of this. Then again, we went out to our board advisor who reviewed all the content, who are current physics teachers in an online environment. Then it was released to sales, and so now starting in August of 2019, so last month, it's ready for adoption for any new kit moving forward. Or if you already had a physics kit with us, it will be new and being updated in the future for you. So some of the new items we can talk about that we had, right? We had these veneer capillaries, these density cylinders, these new boards with a ramp and slot in them, conductivity paper, hanging mass sets, magnet sets. These are all things that we updated for better results for your students. And then some new experiments that I won't list all of them, they're all right here. So we have things from energy to air resistance to kinematics to Newton's law. And again, some of these also incorporated of the 32, 30% of them incorporated those new simulations. So a simulation will look something like this. So we've talked a bunch about it. So it will say, the first thing it will tell them is launch the simulation. So, and the student, when they're in the experimentation section and say the exercise, it will tell them to launch it, and they'll click this type of window, and it'll pop up as a new tab. But again, if you're familiar with our stuff and our pictures and the way we do all of our diagrams and our figures for the students how to set up things, we have images of what the screenshots of what the simulation will, and we'll tell them exactly how to get through the simulation and how to get the results and then enter the data into them. And then typically a lot of these experiments, the way they work is then comparing the results with, some kind of physical result that they did, Additionally, I've been instructed by sales and told that you guys have now adopted our virtual microscope. So our virtual microscope works just the way a normal microscope works. This is actually the physical microscope that a student would get if they get a physical one, but it works the same way. So it has, fine and coarse focus. You can move this thing. There's 3 different power settings for it, and there's a whole library of slides that is completely open to you and your students. Now, we may tell them on a specific experiment what slide to pull up so they can get it, and then at the end of the day, they have to get through this checklist to get to a perfectly looking slide, and then they can download an image, and then they can upload that image into a photo uploading image as part of the experiment, or they have to annotate it, where they have to draw something and label it. It just depends on what the experiment is. So this comes to the next section of what's going to be new in the future for HOL, right? So we are always currently innovating and trying to figure out new experiments and lessons for the future. And so again, we talked about simulations, but simulations, we want to add and expand our simulation library. So we're looking at other experiments besides just physics to incorporate simulations for a student experience so they can get these repeatable results as we talked about. And now simulations are different. I'll take a second to talk about that. Simulation is different than a virtual lab, right? So simulations, you can control all the variables. There are multiple variables that may be a part of it depending on what the actual simulation is accomplishing, versus a virtual experiment, which is just clicking through a couple things to get to an end result that's already predefined for them, right? So this is to give the student the same repeatable information they would normally get. And then finally, we also, coming in January of next year at the beginning, we're currently revitalizing our environmental science discipline. So this would revitalize 7 of our experiments in our library. Now, we understand that environmental science is configured to various, different types of kits, so maybe a mixture of chemistry and environmental science and physics and biology, just depends on what the course is. But we'll be updating both the content and the actual lab exercises as well. And the same kind of process we talked about for physics, we will be doing this and currently doing this for environmental science. Again, we're going to be looking at launching this out to sales to talk to you and as instructors in 2020 and in January. And then the last little bit is we want to add new disciplines, right? So right now we're at 9 total disciplines for HOL. We want to add at least 2 more, if not more, as we move forward. So the next big one we'll be working on is organic chemistry, right? There's been a desire to have organic chemistry done for at-home students or distance learners, but it is a challenge for it because a lot of the materials are either really expensive, such as the glassware, or the items such as chemicals are unsafe for students. So we are working tirelessly to try to get this so that it's safe for your students and they can get a very, very similar result to what they would get as an on-campus. Now, we understand that everything will match, but we're trying to do the best just like we normally do for HOL and give you that same high-quality lab-grade materials for your students. Another area we're also interested in talking about is fermentation science, right? So out there in the market right now, there's a huge growth in the brewing industry, both in beer, wine, cider, and other areas such as kombucha. And so we're looking to develop lessons on that for distance learning students to learn about fermentation science at home. So at this point, I'll wrap up and say thank you for attending and listening to me. At this point, if you have any questions, we're welcome to open this up to you. If you would like to see a demo, please let us know. So.
Great. Thanks, you guys. Thank you, Ben. Really interesting stuff, exciting things going on now and in the future. Like you said, if you do have questions, go ahead and just type them in the chat box or the Q&A. I'm going to do a poll right now, so we don't have to end here. If you guys would like to see a quick demo of the platform, so a tour through the HOL Cloud, we have time to do that. So I am going to send a poll. A little polling screen will pop up in just a moment. All you have to do is click yes or no. Take a minute to answer that. Cool. Got 1 yes. I think 1 yes is good enough. So that's how we'll transition then. We won't stop here. I'm going to have Ben, and then we also have a couple account reps, dedicated account reps who know this platform almost as well as Dr. Ben, who designed it, hop in and sort of do this with you guys. So I'll end the polling, and we'll pull that screen up. This is a great time. If you do have questions, just type them in, okay? Oh, there's one question. So see the one over more? They're typing it in the chat. None for me, thank you.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Joe Schubert. I'm an account manager here with Hands-On Labs, and me and Andrew Fogeris are your dedicated account managers, and just wanted to just show you some of the new things that we have on the site. Most people most of the instructors over at Ocean County are fairly familiar with this, so just wanted to jump into a couple different things. As you can see, this is the course dashboard. This is going to show you know, what labs, where the students are on each lab. There's a key down here that shows, you know, what it's used for, as well as you can fast forward to any lab that you have in here. And then you have the time spent on lesson. Again, you can fast forward over to whichever labs and see where the students are spending most of their time on the labs themselves. One of the new features that we have, we're going to come down to lessons. One of the new features that we have, you'll see these lock buttons over here, and you can actually set an access date for the students, so they won't be able to access the courses or the lessons before they get into the, you know, before the access date is set. So there's a couple different options for you guys here. There's require sequential completion of lessons, so that means they just have to do them in order, and the order that you line them up in, and you can drag and drop them, you know, whichever order that you have here, as well as you can uncheck boxes if you don't want the students to see the lessons until a certain time. You know, there's a couple different options for that. Of course, you can go in before it and set these access dates to correspond with your syllabus. That's one of the new things that we have. There's some more, you know, there's going to be some more items coming down the pipeline in the next couple of months. Before the end of the year, I think they'll push out another upgrade. You know, and we always appreciate any feedback from any instructors, you know, as we go. You guys are using this software every single day, so, you know, we look at that, you know, your guys' feedback is valuable material for us. Going into the, you know, the rest of the site here, you do have a materials tab that's going to show everything that the students will supply, as well as what HOL will supply. This gives an overview of all of the actual experiments itself. There is a section for supplemental documents. If there's any, you know, any extra files or pictures or videos or anything you want to upload, you can upload it here. We do have downloadable answer guides that helps the instructors answer some of the questions there. The multiple choice questions, those are auto-graded, so you know, you just have to go in there and just grade the actual short answer questions or data tables. And then we have the gradebook function. If you guys need some, you know, some tutorials on this, we can do that. It's something that you know, we're excited to, you know, show you guys how to use it if you want to go ahead and use it moving forward. And really, that's about the website there. The you know, where the students will live is in the lessons tab. And the cool thing about this is we can jump over to the student view, and you can see exactly what the students will be seeing here as well. So, you know, it's very similar to what the instructors see themselves. And then we have, you know, on the student side, they have a couple different tabs up here. They've got this lessons tab, the materials, and then the supplemental documents tab. If they do have any grades graded in there, there's going to be another drop-down tab that'll pop up, and that's gradebook. Other than that, though, that's exactly what they'll see right there. And then we'll just pop back into the instructor view. And just, you know, right now we can open it back up to questions. If anybody wants to go into a little more depth about this, we can set up some time on the side, and I can run them through anything that, you know, that they had more questions about.
All right, it doesn't look like anybody has too many questions right now. Actually, none at all, which is fine. I'm just glad that you guys were able to join us and learn more about where we've been and where we're going with the brand. As a follow-up, we will send out a HOL overview and then this beautiful case study that was recently written, and OCC is the subject. So is it?
Yeah, we partnered with Mark Labella on this, and you know, and he's given some great insight as to you know, our partnership and our relationship with OCC. And
it's a really beautiful story, and so we'll send that out as supplemental materials post this webinar. So be on the lookout for an email from us. And if you do have any questions after we log off here, please feel free to reach out to either Joe or Andrew, and they will share any information that you need to know or want to know or just curious about. So that being said, thank you very much for joining us today. We look forward to learning more about your needs and helping you guys out from the HOL side. Oh, we got a little message here. What did I say? Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys. Have a great evening.